The Mandalorian Season 3 has concluded, and that review is on the way for the channel, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about something much more exciting and opportunistic headed our way, and that of course is the upcoming Ahsoka series slated for release in August. A new trailer dropped while I was away, and with it comes the somewhat unpredictable tradition here on this channel where I give my perspective on where this series should go and what I hope it accomplishes, and how we can learn from past Star Wars mistakes to finally get the Force users of this new generation back on the right track. I think one of the things I've missed most about modern Star Wars media is surprisingly just the simplicity of getting lost inside the stories and worlds that cover this universe, even if just briefly. I miss living in the world of Star Wars, akin to how the Clone Wars animated series felt like an all-encompassing journey and became really easy to get sucked into when I first tackled that journey a few years ago. There was a sense of craftsmanship and a clear attention to the little things, a repetition of building upon the framework of the world through its details that permeated through even the weakest episodes. This commitment to the world and its lore is what sucked me in the first place. All this to say, the Ahsoka series coming on Disney Plus has its own unique hurdles to clear and legacies to uphold, and we'll get to that, but as a baseline, I do hope this series can be the necessary step up in storytelling and world building that would do justice for Ahsoka's big debut, and also right some of the wrongs of the laziness found in the recent Mandalorian season. Now, when it comes to caretaking a project such as Ahsoka, a lot of the investment early from fans usually comes around when we know who's working directly on the project, and this is where I think the majority of my excitement stems from, because Dave Filoni is said to have almost complete creative and editorial oversight for this series. Dave, of course, is the one who created, introduced, and evolved Ahsoka into this world back during the Clone Wars animated series, and it's his understanding of the character and his story with her that gives me some peace of mind for what he has in store. Building trust with your audience, especially for Star Wars as of recent, is vital to the opening receptions of new IPs, and Dave is exactly the person needed on this project and the one I'd want having creative influence. Ahsoka is such a huge moment for Star Wars, and while a lot of Filoni's recent work has been focused on salvaging the old stories, he finally has a chance to really flex his creative juices within his own creation. I think we're about to get one of the most exciting versions of Ahsoka yet, with all the lore that's available and the themes of old space wizardry that are pulsing through this trailer. This could be one of the richest experiences yet for new Star Wars media. For just once, let's lean into the mythology and really abstractness of Star Wars. Let's lean into the otherworldly mysticisms to make Ahsoka stand out from the pack, because Lord knows she does already. A refreshing flavor boost to the Force-centric stories we've had so far could be in store, and yes, this sounds like a lot of hopium, but I can't help it. Not with Dave Filoni's eye for lore and his clear appreciation for Ahsoka, I am so ready to be transported through the artistry of Ahsoka, and I'm ready to see what she can bring creatively to such an uneven slate of shows. If Ahsoka can capture that essence and that mysticism, if it can really commit to the act and the people it's following, it'll be so much easier for me to fall into this world and overlook minor writing choices or plot devices, things that have all been Achilles' heels as of late. I want to get invested in this world. I want to feel like I have to know what happens next. I want to be obsessed with Ahsoka and her stories, so if the showrunners do their homework, I'll always be along for the ride. And at this point, just off of the trailer alone, I already am. What I'm digging most about this trailer is the visual storytelling, the different color tones and palettes and hues of the unique sets. They have all told their own story so far. From the musings of a wandering Jedi to the highbrow stoicism of Balin and his calculations, I think too often color grading gets neglected in certain areas of filmmaking, and while it doesn't necessarily affect the story, it does do a lot to draw in an audience, and yeah, I'm drawn in off of the aesthetics alone. It does play a small part in catching my attention when it feels like the artistry of this world is more vibrant, like an Elseworld story from the Dark Horse comic runs. The star in Star Wars seems to come to life, and the mythicality of it all feels just right. Speaking of lore, it's become one of the most exciting aspects of this limited series. Ahsoka is entering a time period that's simply oozing with creative avenues for both her story and her world. We're set around 5 years post Return of the Jedi, which immediately calls to attention the most important topic in the galaxy at this moment, which is the power vacuum left in the wake of the Empire's defeat. 5 years post-Endor is not that large of a gap in this universe, so I'd be expecting some significant tie-in stories to get our reference points back in this universe and up to speed, but also to give the audience a taste of how the dust has settled for political operatives following Episode 6. This minor gap could act as a necessary bridge, both canonically and thematically, allowing various freedoms for Ahsoka to have wild adventures or dangerous interactions with anything and everyone before her inevitable collision with Thrawn. Yes, the big bad Thrawn is finally here. He's finally come full circle, and for a ruler such as he, it's a focal point of the Ahsoka series to allow his presence to be the overbearing, looming threat that he always is, something Ahsoka must succumb to no matter what. This would open the door for a really tense atmosphere to build organically as the show progresses, and Ahsoka is no stranger to tense atmospheres, so why not continue that tradition? Thrawn is staking his claim as a worthy political figurehead, which requires a degree of competency to navigate through conflicts, both politically and physically, which, if done well enough, would leave all the morally gray secondary antagonists with time to sow their own nuance into the themes of the show. It would highlight this unique corridor that Ahsoka operates in, given her past transgressions with the Jedi Council, and her way of seeing the world both pre- and post-Galactic Republic. She's unlike any character we've had before. A direct line of lineage to what was, and an entire canvas of opportunities to what could come. Ahsoka walks a fine balance, and that balance is fascinating, intriguing, and when allowed to evolve, becomes some of the best in Star Wars storytelling. This is all to say, I hope this series treats these characters like real people, real characters, by giving them earned moments with real investment. Too often in this world, it has come across like namesakes and characters exist in body alone, with the underlying portrayals missing their marks and hollowing out the experience. Rewatchability is a huge factor for Star Wars, and if I don't like the characters you've put on screen, then the odds of me watching them consistently and repeatedly are probably not great. Watchability, in relatively loose terms, is an important component in bringing fans like myself back into this series. Not that a show has to be built with bingeability in mind, if anything I actually prefer the opposite, but more that the world and stories we're given have intent behind them and the characters are compelling with real honest stories backing them. This all sounds like pretty standard boxes to check for any kind of entertainment, but you'd be surprised just how many adaptations have struggled with this creative process and how much it really affects my investment in a lot of Star Wars media. Andor proved both of these variables can exist in harmony, while Obi-Wan and Boba Fett really lacked that authentic investment from both the world and the creative minds in charge of the ship. It felt more like I was watching individual parts of something rather than experiencing a whole world of something. Those individual ingredients were hollow, sure, but even the tapestry of all of the different creative processes never truly came together in any substantial way, leaving those bare ingredients exposed and really distracting. Unfortunately, I'm starting to feel the same way about The Mandalorian, so I hope Ahsoka's miniseries lets me live in this world and be a part of something greater, just like how I was with Andor and the Clone Wars. Ahsoka deserves to have her own killer show with nuanced characters, epic lightsaber fights, great world building, and awesome villains to pit against her. I think we're close to that, but we won't know until it drops later this year. For one of the best characters in all of Star Wars and a pivotal keystone during and after the Clone Wars, this show has so much to prove and so much to live up to. Ahsoka has carried her weight for over a decade, and now it's time for the writers and creative team behind her to carry theirs. I can't wait, and I want to know what you're most looking forward to about the Ahsoka series. And as always, thanks for watching.